So I did a post recently about military members likely not getting paid with the upcoming payday. And there was some confusion. There was some folks saying, well, it's not the 15th yet. And my point right now is that there is the military folks' livelihoods are hung up right now with a bunch of politicians who can't get their stuff together. And so this upcoming payday, military members may find themselves with delayed payments and things like that. A lot of folks are heading to food banks and trying to get on top of the game early. But I will tell you, the resources are very limited in food banks right now because the suffering is great right now across the nation. Look at the homeless population. It has exploded big time. But it caused me to do a little research after I did the post and after I started seeing some of the comments. I was quite surprised at the number of folks who have used SNAP, WIC, summer food programs. I'm all too familiar with all these programs, having worked at the Texas Department of Agriculture, which oversees some of these food programs for the federal government. I was pretty shocked. So I started to try to do a little research to try to see just how many people were using these programs. And what I found on average was about 25% of military families actually have used WIC or still use WIC. For SNAP, it's almost like they didn't want to give the data out there. And I started, in my military leadership mind, started to tell my own self the reasons why. The Pentagon is not going to tell you too much, not going to give too much information about some of the struggles or the suffering with military members or their families, because they can call it a national security type of deal, because if they're struggling like that, then obviously the person in uniform can't totally focus on the mission. They're strained, they're stressed, and so they don't want folks to know that. And so I understand why they don't release some of that data. So it's going to be tough if you try to find the data yourself. But military families do use SNAP, they use WIC, they use the summer food program. More so than I thought. More so than I thought. A lot of folks blame people with lack of money management skills. I'm not going to really go there with that, because that can go all the way back to the communities they come from, which segment of the population in America they come from. If they didn't teach you money management skills in high school, not through any fault of your own, it's just because that's the way the education system was lined up, i.e. Texas. You're not going to know money management skills when you go into the military right after high school. And the military is going to actually, they're going to, in a sense, be getting a problem that your community caused, or your state caused, because they should have been teaching you money management skills. And it brings up the question, should the military require young folks, I'm talking about early on, the first 6 months, should they require, money management courses for young folks? I'm not talking about just a couple of classes they go in there. I'm talking about some real hardcore classes about money management skills, because at the end of the day, it can disrupt the mission. It could disrupt the mission later on. A young man is in after about 3 years and they're in financial trouble. Next thing you know, they get pulled off a deployment line because, I don't know, him and his wife is getting into it because of financial issues. And what it boils down to is that young man never had money management skills, or young lady. The struggle is real out there for military families. It is real. Food banks are seeing increased numbers of folks in military uniform looking for food. And they're looking for food because they don't know if the next payday is going to be there. They don't know if it's going to be delayed. So you can't blame them getting a head start on things. But I was quite shocked that even the story I had read and saw photos of a video of folks at Fort Hood at a food bank. Food bank was pretty long. And those were folks that were just trying to get ahead on things. But there were also folks in that line, I'm sure, that were frequent flyers. I mean, there were folks probably in that line that every month, that's the routine for them. And with some of the comments from the video, I became aware of all that. That some folks, every month, they have to go to these food banks and some of these food support centers. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because a lot of people would assume that people in uniform are just taken care of very well, and they are taken care of very well, but they're not rich. People in uniform are not rich. They're not rich. They have an opportunity to get rich, I guess. You can invest the money that the military gives you. But oftentimes that depends on your situation. There's a big difference between being single or having a dependent spouse with 3 dependent children. Huge difference. So I'm going to always be hopeful that military members, or anybody for that matter, who is facing food insecurity can overcome it. But I just really was a little surprised at the sheer number of folks in uniform who are having to deal with this on on a periodic basis, like monthly basis, daily basis. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.